Hello, Christopher Boylan here from the Plantech Nühaus Design and Build team. Today we are back at Shelbourne Road, Dublin 4. Keane Hughes has kindly led us back to view his completed property. Himself and Nikki are going to show us around inside. We're going to go through the design and build process and have a look at some interior finishes. From the previous videos you could see the old boundary hedge has been now removed, replaced with a granite plinth and kerb. We also have laid new cobble lock to the driveway. We have a car charger in, we have new boundary treatments. The front facade is pretty much retained. We have new glazing, a new front door, and we have some mortar joints and pointing has been renovated. We also have external insulation on the right hand side gable wall. The original parapets have been retained, and as much of the original brickwork has also been retained. We can have a look at the side and the back in more detail, and let's come on through and have a chat with Keane. We get in out of the rain and have a chat inside. This is actually the original knocker, I remember. Hello,
Hello,
Keane.
Chris.
How are
Welcome.
you?
Come on inside.
I'll just back. How are you? Good to see you again.
Fantastic to have you here.
Great. Whoa. Keane, thank you very much for welcoming us back today to your home, your beautiful new home, fully finished, fully refurbed. We can have a look around in more detail after today's chat. Before we do that, could you give us a bit of history on the site and a bit of background before you purchased this property?
Absolutely, Chris. Delighted to have you here. As I best understand it, this house was built in 1903. It was one of 4 houses like it, only 2 of which remain today.
Yeah.
It is obviously set over 3 stories, and originally, would have had a coal shed and various outbuildings and garages to the rear. It was sold to a nearby laundry in the 70s and was used as tenement housing for a time, and then really fell vacant in the 70s.
Yeah.
Save for some squatters who lived in it between then and now. So at the time we first came to see it, it had had a major water leak, ceilings had fallen in, and in fact, speaking to the neighbours next door, they really were concerned about collapse and the knock-on consequences for them. So
Yeah.
it really was in a poor state
at
the time it came to us.
I remember first visiting with the team and the initial survey. It was just a shell of a structure. It was probably a daunting challenge for you to take on a massive project like this, period home, lots of structural issues, and 3 stories of renovations, below ground foundation issues, roof issues, structural issues. But obviously it wasn't something that bothered you on the initial purchase potential or before you purchased the property.
So, something that was interesting about the whole process for us is we knew we were keen to renovate a property and to have somewhere that met modern environmental and energy standards. And so we understood that there would be a lot of work to get there with a property of this age. But for us, actually, without the Inspire Pack, let me take that one again.
Okay.
So we knew we were interested to have a period property, but at the same time we wanted to live somewhere that met modern energy and environmental standards.
Yeah.
We knew there'd be a lot of work to achieve that, especially with a property of this age.
Yeah.
But actually, without Plantech's involvement and the Inspire package, it would have been completely impossible for us to purchase this property.
Yeah.
Understandably, with the state of disrepair, banks were very nervous about lending on anywhere that was essentially uninhabitable. But actually, through the Inspire Pack and working with yourselves, the Nühaus team, and getting to the architectural drawings stage, allowed us to convince the lenders that we had a plan to make this house habitable, that we had the right people and a trustworthy team in place to do that. And it really was on that basis that we were able to proceed with the purchase and with the renovations.
Very good. I know you came from an apartment in London. This obviously has an excellent location, but was a specific period home something that you wanted to purchase rather than a modern home in Dublin 4 or Dublin 2?
Yeah, so my wife and I lived in apartments in London for the best part of a decade.
Yeah.
And we really enjoyed that, and we enjoyed the conveniences of living in somewhere modern, but at the same time, with our move from London to Dublin, home for me and somewhere new for her, we were keen to have a little bit more space, to have a garden, to have our own front door, and also really to have somewhere with a bit more space for bringing up a child and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why getting a house was important for us.
Yeah.
And this really was an area of the city that we really liked.
Very good. When we first met with you and had the initial consultation, you had lots of research complete. You had a good vision yourself. You had a solid vision of what you wanted. Obviously, technically, you were very informed on the building, renovation, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architectural. You could read the plans, which is great for us. You were involved with all of the technical details, the building works, and sometimes hands-on, with the team on site. But your input was excellent throughout the project. It was very helpful for us, very decisive. But the initial phase of the concept design was very important here. As you mentioned earlier, the Inspire Pack, which gave you the 3 options and the 3D visual. I know you had your vision, but when our project architect Juan prepared those initial concepts, and the Nühaus team then subsequently prepared the estimates, how was that process for you, for the starting point, to get within a vision and budgeting?
So it was really fantastic for us because it gave us an opportunity to, put an initial sort of ballpark figure on what a renovation like this would cost. And actually that process gave us an opportunity to really rethink the way in which Nikki and I had imagined renovating this property. One of our key requirements was that we wanted to add a lift to the property, but our original plan for how we would do that had a completely different circulating arrangement to what Juan had proposed. And really the idea of removing what would be the redundant chimney breasts from the core of our party wall gave us an opportunity to move the lift back into the core of the house, and to avoid having it anywhere that would remove sources of natural light from outside. And really having that initial budgeting alongside your expertise on the layout and design internally was transformational for us in terms of how we thought about laying out.
Yeah, this was a very specific design. It's not your standard 3-4 bed semi-D Dublin property that we would typically work on. For homeowners seeing the finished product here today, they just sort of see kitchens and crittle doors, sliding doors, beautiful decor. But you're witness to what went into the walls, the ceilings, the timber joists, the steel frame, skeleton structure, the lift shaft structure below and above ground. It was a serious amount of engineering that went into it. And I think a big credit to Vilius on site as chief foreman and senior construction foreman with the Nühaus team. He was excellent with propping up the whole back wall of this property, dealing with Dublin City Council, who came to site to make sure everything was in order. I know some neighbours had some concerns because it was a massive underpinning, and you're also adjoined to an adjacent property. Could you just talk about the site team and how they prepared the method statement of building the skeleton frame and dealing with the Dublin City Council and neighbours on your behalf?
Absolutely. I think we were very lucky from the outset to have a team of architects, builders and engineers who were used to working together. And I think that made the process much smoother when inevitably with a restoration like this, you come across unexpected findings along the way that require immediate decisions and changes on site, sometimes significant. At the outset of the build, while we were aware that there could be problems with the back wall and the first floor, we'd hoped that it might be possible to retain one or both of those. At the same time, when we got to the stages of removing plaster work, it was obvious that the first floor timbers were rotten beyond recovery, and that really trying to retain the back wall would be more effort than rebuilding. And it was reassuring throughout that process that we could get calculations and updated plans for those changes, agreed and prepared quite rapidly. And actually we are delighted with the result that we've achieved, because in fact it's given us much better thermal performance on the back wall, and also security for ourselves that the house is built to easily withstand another 100, if not 200 years. Fully
future-proofed. For any homeowners considering a renovation, maybe not to this extent, but on a smaller scale, of a knockout, an open plan space, and any sort of a deep retrofit of insulation, glazing, structures and so on. Could you just elaborate a bit about engaging with professional engineers, an architectural team, professional building contractors, and having an estimator QS involved throughout the project, that backup service of the Nühaus Plantech team, of the receptionist, the admin team, a delegated crew for all your trades and so on? Is it worth that investment, and would you recommend that for any homeowner thinking about a renovation or construction project?
I think any sort of renovation or construction project like this is undoubtedly going to be, in some ways in a challenging and stressful time for the homeowners.
Yeah.
You're deeply invested in where you want to get to, and at the same time, for anyone, that there are significant costs involved, especially in unexpected things. For us, we both have busy jobs, and so it would have been wholly impossible for us to be, handling the interface between multiple teams of professionals and tradespeople on our own. And so, while we were undoubtedly involved in all of those decisions along the way, to know that there was a team coordinating that, and a single point of contact across the board was really, really helpful. And at the same time, the opportunity to regularly visit site with yourselves and with affiliates from the Nühaus team really kept us reassured that things were making progress, and the opportunity to meet on site with yourselves and the engineers to discuss specific issues was really reassuring, knowing that those unexpected findings were being addressed.
Keen, contingency is a big part of any construction project for homeowners to consider. Do you have any advice for anybody considering a home renovation extension project for budgeting on a contingency of, let's say, 15-20%, or unforeseen circumstances when you open up works and open up structures to find unexpected additional building?
Absolutely. So we were in a really lucky position prior to this purchase, in that the vendors, recognizing the state of the property, gave us something a little bit more leeway pre-sale than might normally be allowed. Our engineers were permitted some limited opening up work, small areas of 10 centimeters to get a feel for where we were at. But nonetheless, going into the project, we knew from the engineering survey that there were maybe 5 things that could potentially be major unexpected findings. For example, some of those things turned out to be okay. We considered a contingency in which we would potentially have to replace the roof, and that turned out not to be required. On the other hand, we'd hoped to retain the original back wall, but as I mentioned earlier, that just wasn't possible given its condition. So for us, we worked on the basis of roughly what might these 5 things cost. Let's plan for 3 of those 5 things to go wrong. And on that basis, we held back, and in fact had to demonstrate to the bank that we had held back, on the order of 17% of our original build. And actually our overspend came out at more like 15%, and so we were reassured that things had been handled as carefully as they could be, while at the same time addressing the works that needed to be done to ensure the house was warm, structurally safe, dry, and well positioned to work for us.
I think Anna was very helpful at the Nühaus office in regards to budgeting. A full transparent breakdown was given, plus a fair contingency, which is pretty accurate on completion. And Juan from the architectural team at Plantech did not go into a huge concept extension. It was sort of, you can have a look at that later today as we walk through your home, but the extension here is in proportion to the kitchen, and the open plan space that he has designed here with you. I think it suits the layout. It's not over designed, and there was no need for a bigger extension. Typically up to 40 square meters will be our benchmark, but with the space you've got here existing, with the remodeled walls, the archways that you've created, I think the budgeting for the layout and the renovation worked out really well.
I think it did. For us, our square meters on the ground are almost identical to what we had before we began. On the one hand, we removed a coal store and some poorly constructed outbuildings that gave us additional space in the garden and for a patio. The removal of thick internal walls gave us back additional floor space here, and at the same time the architectural roof light from Cubo gave us an additional 3 and a bit meters into the kitchen, which accounted for the enlargements we made in the hallway, and really gave us a good space, as well as bringing in a lot of nice natural light from the east and southeast facing aspects early in the day.
It is a bit of a risk when you're sort of southwest facing with so much glass. How do you find it? Is it comfortable with the mechanical upgrade and living here now over 6 months? The family are settled in. Is it a comfortable space at the rear with the sliding doors and the glass?
So undoubtedly with any aspect like that, you are going to bring in some sun, and on the occasional sunny day we get here in Dublin, that does bring with it some thermal gain.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate that between the mechanical systems and also just the natural ventilation, we're fortunate here that between the mechanical systems that we've installed and the natural ventilation that's provided by the large sliding doors and windows, we can adequately keep the property both warm in winter and cool in summer.
Great, great. Well, yeah, just before we wrap up, we'd like to have a walk through the rooms with you and get into more detail on the architectural design and also yourself and Nicky's finishes, which are beautiful. You can see behind you there you have the original brick feature wall. We also have the more traditional reception room to the front. And yeah, we'd like to show our viewers the designs and the finishes and have a walk through with you, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about the finishes and the details.
Certainly, Chris, I'd be delighted to show you around.
Okay, let's go.
So I really like that as we created this open space here, removing the walls and reinstating the arch here, the Vilius and the Nühaus team were able to preserve some of the original brickwork that you can see here, integrating that alongside the steel, and then reuse some of the bricks that we had from the old coal shed and outhouse to create the feature wall in the kitchen here. At the same time, I think the quality of the workmanship, bringing the brick, the steel, the doors together without any gaps or hiding things between, shows the attention to detail with the team and the level of skill and care that they took during the build.
Yeah, it's evident. I think with the Plantech team also, the proposal of a small extension works really well. It's triple glazed, panoramic roof glazing, nice open plan space here, and then obviously you have your non-standard, almost commercial height sliding door. We separated this space with an open connection and archway. I think it works really well, and the finishes here on the original brick and steel junctions. You have that industrial look here, and then it comes back to the original period settings which you have retained through the traditional crittle doors to the front reception room. I think the colour schemes work really well. It's a stunning transformation.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that was obviously challenging about the property when we purchased it and first came to look at it is how many of the original details had unfortunately been destroyed in the period between when the house was last occupied and then when we purchased it. But at the same time, I think that we made the most of the opportunity that gave us with a blank canvas at the rear, while at the same time retaining features like the staircase and the brickwork on the front of the building to keep the character of the original house.
If we have a walk through here to the kitchen area, and this sort of snug, almost like a separated sort of sunroom, you can see the back garden here, which is probably 50 or 60 meters. It's just recently been seeded and lawned, and I think you can see a beautiful back garden space, and you have the full panoramic view. You also have the vaulted ceiling here. You have the external insulation, the triple glazed upper levels. But just this snug alone, I think it's a really nice add-on. It's an excellent architectural detail.
Absolutely, and even on a grayer day like today or in the winter, there's so much natural light in here. It's a lovely place to spend time, and it really does bring you out into the garden, even on days when you wouldn't necessarily want to be out there yourself.
Yeah, and a nice detail here, sort of extending that feel of a deeper space is the connection of the brick internally and externally to match the original garden space. So There's so many small details yourself, Nikki, and the architectural team have implemented here. It's amazing. You know, there's so many items that catch your eye as you walk in. But yet it's a great space. So
I think keeping the level, size, and pattern of the brickwork inside and out, and at the same time bringing that right up to the steel here, shows again that attention to detail.
Yeah. So let's have a look around the first floor and the other rooms.
Absolutely.
Typically, when we are renovating a period home, we would have the traditional pocket door systems, which would be renovated. It's usually a joinery detail. You've opted here for slightly modern, sort of on-trend, sort of cradle door system. Could you talk to us about that and sort of lead us into the reception room here?
Absolutely. So the paneling doors that were here originally when we acquired the property, unfortunately were warped and damaged beyond repair. We knew also that we had to replace the middle wall of the house because of subsidence and problems with the brickwork. So we decided in the course of that we would install a steel across the top here and use the opportunity to install these griddle doors really as a bridge from the new to the old in the property. And I think that's given us an opportunity also to bring the light both front and back, depending on the time of day, and really has improved the amount of natural light in space here.
Yeah, they really complement the main sliding door, which is also non-standard height. You can see the vaulted ceiling and the 12-foot high glazing arrangements here. They work really well. So you have the opportunity then to open up both rooms if you desire that space. You have that full connection and also separation if needs be. So
and we found with the doors open, if we've a lot of people around, it makes for a great space that you can circulate the whole way through.
Yeah.
At the same time, when they're closed, there's a real distinct feeling to this front room with the more traditional curtaining. It's been absolutely fantastic. Replacing the windows in the front with an insulated, A-rated, but nonetheless period feel glazing has improved not only the temperature, but also the sound. You know, we're fortunate to be located in the heart of Bridge here, but at the same time, when the house had single glazed front windows and didn't have that internal insulation, it was a little bit noisy in this front room. And so it's been excellent with the combination of those two things to have the quiet space that we have today. At the same time, the engineering detail of overlapping the internal insulation on the front with the external insulation on back and sides has allowed us to retain the period brickwork on the front and make sure that our house looks identical to the adjoined house next door, which we really like.
So here you have your typical downstairs practicality of a downstairs loo, nice open space here, and the bespoke lift access from the ground which goes to the attic level. But maybe you can take us upstairs now, we can have a look at the bedrooms and bathrooms and the finishes there.
Absolutely. I really like that we managed to keep the original staircase from the house and to restore it with a period appropriate carpet. So it seems apt that we go up here.
Okay. We're now at the first floor. We have the family bathroom, which is fully renovated, the master bedroom, guest bedroom, Arlo's room, and the building works here consisted of triple glazed windows by Trutex, full insulation and full restructuring of the timbers, plaster, skimming. It was a heavy renovation here. I remember at the early stages also meeting with you here, there was very little left of the original structure.
We're really delighted with how the first floor has worked out with the increased space here in the landing, at the same time retaining the room space for the nursery with an enlarged master bathroom, guest room and master bedroom. One detail that I really like here is how the windows have opened up with the modern frames and the curved sides allowing more light into each room.
Part of this project also involved a disability lift, which is running from the ground to the attic level, and it's a fully engineered independent kit with steel beam, post and concrete support. Could you give us a demonstration on that and how it's operating for you?
Absolutely. We can take it up to the attic level. One of the fantastic things was the suggestion removing the original fireplace and chimney breasts to allow space for this, while not taking away room from any of the other rooms of the house. Let's take that upstairs now and we'll have a look at the attic.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure the kids will have great enjoyment out of using that.
Absolutely. I think we'll have to use the app to lock that lift and make sure they're not using that.
Yeah. So again, the attic level, I know the original property came with the dormer windows, and the head clearance was always okay here, but with the new structure, insulation, timbers, new windows, they're probably some of the best rooms on the upper levels now, fully complete.
Yeah, it's been fantastic here. I think with the open plan layout downstairs, we had a bit of a question as to where we might put our utility room. But with the modern ventilation systems, it's been fantastic having that upstairs here and having the laundry and everything else just well away from the rest of the house.
Great. So you have this as a home office, multi-use space and storage. I know you've got lots of the mechanical and the plant here. Some of the ProWare equipment is here, mechanical services.
Yes.
But even the attic space at eaves, storage height, maybe 1.4, 1.5 metres, still great for family storage.
It's been just brilliant, and the way that they've built storage space around the ventilation there has been fantastic as well.
Yeah, yeah. Some great views of the Aviva Stadium on the left-hand side, and a great shot of the backyard. That 55 metres of lawn space again is evident from here. So.
Yeah, and I think it's really wonderful the way that the temperature is so stable up here throughout the summer and winter, but at the same time with the windows opening the whole way up, on a nice day you have the opportunity to almost feel like you're in the garden while you're working at your desk, which I really enjoy.
Very good. So speaking of garden, let's go back downstairs and have a look at the backyard and the back elevation.
Fantastic. I'll take you back downstairs now.
Great. So can we have a look outside the backyard?
Absolutely. Let me lead you out. I'll open the sliders here. So, obviously on a nicer day than today, it's a fantastic space.
Yeah.
We get the morning sun up here close to the house, and then we get an opportunity to catch the evening sun down the end of the garden.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great opportunity to have a look from the outside, where you can see the external insulation, the eco sills, and the details where the cubo glazing meets the house. And we've been really pleased how neatly that ties in, and how despite the upgrades and renovations, really it doesn't look out of place next to the adjoining house.
Yeah, a big difference between the traditional looking front facade and the more modern rear elevation. Not too extreme, neutral colours, black and white. I think it looks great. And the height you have on the sliding door system here, and the triple glazed cubo panels, I think it's absolutely stunning. So
absolutely, and the sliding doors let us use it as a real inside-outside space, which is a fantastic thing to have in the summer.
And you're still left with 50 linear meterage back garden, and another project there for you, phase 2.
Absolutely. I think eventually we may get a shed down the end of the garden and the bricks to match the front, but that's not something I'm going to tackle this week anyway. Yeah.
Well, from all the Plantech Nühaus team, Cian, to yourself, Nicky and Arlo, congratulations. And once again, thanks very much for your custom. And
Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming back to take a look around.
You're very welcome. So to all of our viewers at Nühaus Plantech, we'd like to say thanks for joining us again. If you're considering a home renovation, extension or new build project, contact us on all of our social media platforms or visit us at our showroom at Ballycoolan, and we'd love to chat to you. Thanks, see you soon.
Nühaus, yeah.